Hi, it's Andy, and today I'm bringing you some LGBTQ plus book recs. I will be 100% honest with you. I am completely pilfering this idea off of Becca. I was supposed to film another video to put in this spot, but I went to see Taylor Swift, and I am too tired, too sore, and too unorganised to have ended up putting the video in the spot that I was meant to put in this spot. And then I watched Becca's video that I will put down below. I will tag Becca down below and put her video down below that she did, where she recommends sapphic romances, or sapphic books with sapphic characters and sapphic romances. That I made that way more complicated than it needed to be. Books that Becca recommended, I can't speak, with sapphic characters and romances in them. I saw that and I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna take the idea and just do queer LGBTQ plus romances, or LGBTQ plus characters. Stop saying romances, they're not all romances. And yeah, give you a list of books that I have pilfered off my shelf to show you some books with queer characters. So I'm using queer as like a catch-all term for LGBTQ plus characters. So these characters, as you'll see in this, could be, like I say, LGBT, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, aro, ace, trans. I will go through the characters as I go through them, but it is a wide spectrum that I'm covering. Becca specifically wanted to cover sapphic characters because she had a specific interest in doing that, which is great, because I feel like she's quite right in saying that sapphic characters don't necessarily get looked at an awful lot. There's an awful lot of either bisexual characters who end up in heteronormative relationships, or male-male romances are quite popular at the minute. But I'm just going to do a general across the board one, because tired, sore, unorganised. So yeah, I've just pulled literally all I've done, and I'm quite happy with the selection that I've got. I've got 46 books to show you. 46 books, and that's just like some of them I had to rein myself back on. I've just gone across my shelves and pulled every single one where I remembered that there was some kind of character, like where I didn't have to think about it too hard, and just like pulled a book off my shelf. So the fact that I've got so many books is something I'm quite happy about. If I had to think about it, I could pull more. I direct you back to my previous comments about the tired, sore, and unorganised. And you know, also I don't want this to be like a million years long, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. I will try and be as brief as possible. Brief as possible, Andy. This is what we're going for. This is what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing here, but and obviously I had to film this in my Heartstopper hoodie, because yeah, of course I had to. That was Hamish just jumping up on his chair if you heard that noise. And if you saw the lights wobbling earlier, that was also Hamish nudging the lights as he walked past them. So this video is just pure chaos, which is great, because I feel like I am just pure pansexual chaos. Got my little flags. You see my little flags in my little book. Anyway, I'm going to start before this just gets way out of hand. Also, this is in no particular order other than paperbacks are over here and hardbacks over here, because they stacked nicely for me to be able to pull them out and show you. So the first is this kind of representing this behind me, which is the True Blood series. It's actually called the Southern Vampire Mysteries, is the actual name of the series. I bet you didn't know that. If you did, well done. If you did know that this is called the Southern Vampire Mysteries, leave me a little back down below. So they are some people know them as the Suki Stackhouse books, some people know them as the True Blood books, but this is the book series that the TV show True Blood is set from, like the books that the TV show is set from. That's exactly what you've just said, Andy. Anyway, so this book has coffee on it. I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. Anyway, This is, if you've seen the TV show, you can imagine how sexually explicit these books are. The characters in this, we have Lafayette, who is a gay man in this. We also have vampires in this who are so old that they don't care. They don't care about gender binaries, they don't care about sexuality. They are fully fluid, or they are fully accepting of fluidity. They absolutely do not care. You have so many characters in here who do not prescribe to your cis-het normative thing. They just don't care. They don't care. They're like, I'm too old to be bothered with this bull. And I love that. Like, I love the fact that it's like set in this like rural South Louisiana. It's like setting, and they're like, yeah, I am thousands of years old. If I want to put my appendages in a man, I'm gonna do it. Even though I am also a man. If I want to wear a dress, I'm gonna wear a dress. Even though I'm a man. They do not care. They could not give less of a fuck. And it is beautiful. Like, there's so many, and it's not even like none of the other vampires care. Nobody cares. Like, they literally do not care. They're just like, we are far too old to give a flying fuck about that. And that is how it should be. Like, nobody should care. Nobody should care. And I love Charlene Harris for that. I think that is something that is overlooked in these books. And yeah, but these are gory, violent, and very explicit. So if you're going into that, please note this as well. Going quite far in the opposite direction is Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. This is the second in the sort of companion duology. The first one it was originally released as Royals and then repackaged as Prince Charming. And this is about the sister of the prince from the first one. And she is a lesbian, and her partner in this is bisexual, I believe, or vice versa. I can't remember which, but either way, we have both lesbian and bisexual characters in this who end up in a female-female romance. And I do believe some of the side characters do fall into the LGBT category as well. Next up is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Evelyn Hugo is sort of famously known as a bicon when it comes to bisexual literature. If you are a big fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid, you'll know that, you know, Evelyn Hugo has her famous sort of bisexual character. I remember when this came out, there was a huge big thing about the fact that she was bisexual, and yeah, so this is the story about Evelyn Hugo and her life story told through her 7 husbands, like through the sort of chapters itself into each of her 7 husbands, and then someone who was also the love of her life who was not one of her 7 husbands. And there's so much more to it than that. I really, really enjoyed this. It is the only one of the 2 of the Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I've read, but I really, really enjoyed it. And it shows, I think, quite well the sort of, quite well, I think, biphobia and the way that bisexuality is looked at in a way, like bi erasure and biphobia, and some of the ways that it can be shown. Like, yes, she had all these husbands, and yes, she loved some of these men, but that doesn't make her any less bisexual. You know, just because she wasn't with equally men and women doesn't make her any less bisexual. Next up is Read Between the Lines by Rachel Lacey. This is a sapphic romance between a bookseller and her favourite author, but she doesn't know that it's her favourite author. They have been talking to each other online as author and bookseller, and also are author and fan, and also they've been talking to each other as bookseller and patron, and they don't know that each other are like the same. Like, they don't put 2 and 2 together until obviously later on in the book. This was really interesting to me, as it's the first adult sapphic romance that I read, so that was a nice sort of introduction to the genre for me, because all my romances before that I'd read had been like your standard either YA romances or had been like adult contemporary romance with male-female characters, or like Red, White and Royal Blue, I think, had been about it. So yeah, it's nice to have started that sort of journey of reading outside my comfort zone with this book. And this is an indie published book, as you can probably see from the type of cover that it's got. So if you want to read more sapphic romances, Rachel Lacey is a good indie author to go and support. Next is Love Theoretically. This is just sort of representing Ali Hazelwood in general, because Love Theoretically is my favourite of her books. And Ali Hazelwood, while not necessarily having the most obvious LGBTQ plus characters in her books, her female main characters are usually always demisexual. And that is not something that you see often in books. And in fact, I actually saw a TikTok video complaining about the Love Hypothesis the other day that got my back up, and I wanted to talk about this book specifically for that reason, or talk about Ali Hazelwood's books for that reason specifically. So the video was complaining about the fact that, and it was the Love Hypothesis specifically because the main character had and spoilers for Love Hypothesis, so I put my hand up and put it down, but it's important to explain this before I go into it. She was complaining that the female main character had never never had sexual desire until she met this man, and then suddenly she was fixed. And that's not at all what it was. It is not a fix-it problem. So that is the thing about the Love Hypothesis. In general, and the counterpoint to that is that Ali Hazelwood writes her female main characters, as demisexual. And then what demisexual means is that you tend not to form sexual desire towards somebody until you form an emotional connection. That is a rough and ready definition. There's probably more to it, but that is in a nutshell what that means. I'm demisexual myself, so I'm demisexual, I'm pansexual, and what that generally means to me is when I see a celebrity or someone on the street or something, I don't immediately look at them and look at their physical attributes and think, oh, they're attractive. I don't get that whole thing. I don't understand it. They are just an amorphous blob to me. They might as well be an amorphous blob to me because I don't get it. I can understand why, what attributes make someone attractive and not attractive. I understand the concept of what makes something attractive. It's like saying, I understand what makes this aesthetically pleasing. But that's all. I don't get any of the rest of what people seem to get when they find someone attractive. But once I have developed some kind of emotional attachment, it changes my perspective on how people look. So for example, even down to my friends, I find my friends more aesthetically pleasing, more attractive in their looks the more I get to know, the more now than when I didn't know them. Not that I'm attracted to them in that, in any sort of sexual way, but there's still a part of my brain that changes how somebody looks. So it's kind of like the Twits by Roald Dahl. So the Twits are physically ugly because they're so ugly inside, and beautiful people are so beautiful on the outside. The beautiful people in the Twits are so beautiful because of how beautiful they are inside. And that's how I see people. It's how my brain sees people. The kinder and nicer you are as a person, the more my brain sees you as beautiful on the outside. That is genuinely how my brain engages with things. And so that's how I engage with people that I'm physically attracted to. So the example I always give, the guy that plays Steve Rogers, Captain America, I'm not attracted to the actor. I don't think the actor's attractive, but I'm attracted to Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers, yes. Chris, whatever his name is, don't care. Do not care. I don't think he's attractive, but I think Steve Rogers is attractive. And it's because of their personalities. Steve Rogers is a kind-hearted person. He is somebody who would go out on the line for his friends, and it's up until a certain point. There's a point in the films where suddenly Steve Rogers stops being attractive to me. But up until that point, in Captain America and everything, I find Steve Rogers so attractive. But I don't find Chris, whatever his name is. I don't even know his name. I know he's one of the Chris's. I don't find him attractive. Simply because he's not done anything that I would connect him to being attractive. He's not done anything bad, so I don't think he's unattractive. I understand sensibly why he's attractive, but Captain America, hot. Chris, sure, I know he's attractive, but I don't find him attractive. You know what I mean? So to have representation of demisexuality in Ali's books, I think is really important, because people need to understand that not everybody has, it's not an all or nothing. Like, attraction isn't an all or nothing. There is that grey area, and there is that scale, and it is a sliding scale, and it is so important, and it's so like heartening to me that Ali would put that into her books. And that's why it's so important to me that people understand that this is not a case of fixing someone who is broken or suddenly finding the right person or anything like that. These characters, it's not a throwaway thing. It is important that you understand that these characters are demisexual, and that their demisexuality is what makes the difference for their sexual experiences in the book, and that we are real, like, people like me exist. Like, I am demisexual. I find people attractive based on my emotional connection to them. Like, it seems like such a strange concept, and I find it really strange that, like, that's why I find it really strange that people can have, like, casual, could go out and just sleep with whoever they want, like, whoever they come across, because to me that seems really, like, gross. And that's not, I'm not yucking your yum, but, like, the idea of somebody, like, interact, like, I don't like being touched by people I don't know. I don't like being touched by people I know, but, like, I don't like being, like, even just, like, touched by people I don't know. So, like, if it was something like, please stay over there, like, you know, so, like, that whole thing, it just wraps up into that whole thing. So yes, that's why it's very important that we understand that this is not Ali Hazelwood saying, you just need to wait for the right person to come along. No, it is a thing. It is demisexuality, and I've talked for so long about this book, about this series, companion series, but yes, so very important, and Becca will be very happy that I'm including this, probably, so you're also welcome. Next up is Beach Rivals by Georgie Tilney. This is a side quest off to the side section for this book. The bookshop owners in this are a couple where it is a man and his wife, and the wife is a trans woman, and she's fabulous, she is wonderful, she is incredible, she is a performer, and she is a author, and, like, not a poet, but, like, you know how people do, like, readings and stuff, like slam poets and stuff like that. She does things like that, but she does, like, readings of her books. So, like, instead of poetry, she reads, like, sections of her books, and, like, people will come from, like, all over to watch her read her books. And this, like, you do get some of her backstory in here, and how she became herself, how she, like, learned it was okay to be herself, and how her husband dealt with that because they started off as a gay couple, or what they thought were a gay couple, and how he adjusted his how he sort of adjusted because his husband was in fact his wife, and how they adjusted is the only word I can think of at the moment, because that my brain is dead. So yeah, this is beautiful couple in this who are just wonderful, and they deserve all the love and recognition in this world. Next is All the Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. The main character in this is bisexual. I don't know about her partner, her girlfriend. I don't know if she is lesbian or bisexual as well, but the main character is definitely bisexual because she gets trapped in a bank during a robbery with her girlfriend and her ex-boyfriend, and it is awkward, to say the least. Next up, I've grabbed a couple of Alice Oseman's works to show off. These two specifically because they represent a couple of different things that Alice Oseman has done. I Was Born for This has a trans character who is in a rock band, and he's having to deal with that on top of being famous and being young and famous and all the things that has on top of that. So we have a trans character, I believe. I want to say we probably also have some non-binary characters in this as well. We do have, throughout the other series, we have non-binary characters, we have trans characters, we have other sexualities, bisexualities, gay, etc. It's Alice Oseman. They go through a litany of LGBTQ plus characters, but this one specifically I know has a trans character, and again, like I say, I believe a bisexual character as the main characters, but it's been a while since I read this, but I do know definitely a trans character. And then Loveless by Alice Oseman. I specifically wanted to pick this up because Georgia is asexual, and at the start she thinks she is broken, and until she discovers what asexuality is and realises that she's not broken, she is just asexual. Demisexuality that I was talking about earlier is just on the scale of asexuality. So there's allosexual and asexual are the scales. So allosexual is the opposite of asexual, and then there's a scale within that you can sort of fall into. Demisexuality, grey sexuality, they are on that scale. So yes, Georgia is asexual. I also believe that Tori Spring is on the ace scale. Aromantics also come on to, I'm not 100% sure how Arrow Ace intersect, because I know you can be aromantic, so Arrow is short for aromantic, Ace is short for asexual. You can be aromantic and allosexual, or you can be aromantic and asexual, or you can be a whole mixture. It's just whatever you are is what you are, end of the day. But yes, I want to pick this one up as well because it does represent another portion of it, which is the ace spectrum that Alice loves to dip into as well. But also, you know, there's a whole LGBTQA+ section of this because it's a university with a LGBTQ+ society as well. Next up is an author that I've already mentioned, but now we're actually going to talk about their books, and that is Casey McQuiston. And I have One Last Stop and Red, White and Royal Blue here. I Kiss Shar Wheeler is also LGBTQ+, but I don't have that because it's YA and I've gone off YA, so I didn't pick it up. And One Last Stop is a sapphic romance, but it does also have other LGBTQ+ characters. It has gender non-conforming characters, and it also has other sexualities mixed in, with the two main characters being sapphic. There are side characters who fall into other sexualities as well, and we all know Red, White and Royal Blue. Everybody and their dog knows Red, White and Royal Blue, where we have a bisexual character and a gay character and other characters, side characters mixed in there who are also not straight. They're definitely not straight. Next up is Iron Widow by Jiren J. Zhao, and this has a polyamorous throuple in here, a complete polyamorous triangle. They are all dating each other, like all three of them are dating each other. It is not a love triangle in the sense that one of them has to choose between the two. Nope, there's no choosing. They're all together, and I love it. I can't wait to see how this works out in the second book, because I love them all together, and I love that they love each other all together. So there's a polyamorous couple in here, which includes our female main character and two guys, and the two guys are together as well. So there is definitely some form of bisexuality umbrella coming in under there. It is not stated anywhere what their sexuality is, but there is not straightness going on in here. There's not straightness. There's also, I don't know if I wouldn't say this counts, but like, because it's based on Chinese emperors, there's a harem, but I wouldn't count that in because it is obviously stated in the book that it is something that the author does not really agree with. The polyam, yes. The harem, no, not so much. But yes, this is very much a not straight book written by a they-them author, so we very much stand. Next up is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. One of the characters in this, Yaharia, is in a sapphic relationship, and it is something that she does have to sort of deal with when she meets her sister in the Dominican Republic, because in the Dominican Republic it is sort of less accepted to be in a same-sex relationship, and so it's something they do have to sort of work around. This is not in like an extensive way. This is written in, verse, so it's not like they have to sit down and have like a full-on conversation, but it is mentioned when they meet, and it is obviously, you do see her in New York with her girlfriend, so yeah. Next up is probably the gayest of the gay things on my shelf, and that is the Song of Achilles by Mandela Miller. I think we all know this is gay. Literally the opposite of sapphic is Achillean. So yeah, this follows Achilles and Patroclus, who love each other very, very much. Very, very much. And this is the retelling of Achilles through the Trojan War. It's very heart-wrenching and very gay. Very, very gay. It's Greek. Greeks had a very different view on sexuality and gender. So anything Greeks should really be very, very gay. Next up is one I've just read, and that is In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. This is the story of two boys who are just at the end of their schooling when World War I breaks out, and at different times they decide to sign up to go to war. And what each of them doesn't really know is that the other is in love with them, but they can't really tell each other that because it's the start of World War I, which means it is 1914, and it's still illegal. And you can no longer be hanged for it, but you can go to prison. So yeah, they kind of don't tell each other that they're in love with each other, but then they go to war, and the potential that they could die is very, very real, and so they have to deal with that. This book, I loved this book so much. I can't even tell you. This has been one of my favourite reads of the year so far, and I'm so glad I picked it up. But yes, if you want, this reminded me so much. This gave me very much like Song of Achilles vibes, but like World War I. But like, yeah. So if you want like World War I, but like, it didn't really, I don't know. I'm very bad at describing without spoilers, so I'm gonna stop talking, but very, very gay. Like, super gay. Like, if you know anything about private school, or public, they're called public schools, but like Eton and stuff like that. This is a made up one called Pre-Shoot, but it's like Eton style, like where the elite pay for their children to go to school, like all boys schools and stuff like that. Very, very gay. Very gay. Next up is, this is the book that I've grabbed to represent my Patricia Cornwell collection. Patricia Cornwell herself is married to a woman, Stacey, who is gorgeous, by the way. There is some LGBTQ rep throughout. There are some victims that are LGBTQ throughout the book. Like, there's Patricia Cornwell uses LGBTQ things that happened through the 90s as inspiration for some of her works, and to challenge the attitude. So one of our characters, Marino, who's a police officer, is very much like, when you read these books, they're very much a product of their time, but she sort of amalgamates a lot of the police officers that she worked with when she was a forensic scientist herself, and she amalgamates them all into Marino, and so he is there to challenge, to be challenged. So all of he's very homophobic and quite racist and quite, like, you can imagine New York cop in the 1990s. That's what he's like, and so he is there to be challenged. He is there to be the thing that is challenged, and to challenge his homophobic beliefs and his racist beliefs and things like that. So whenever there's a scenario where something like that comes up, there are loads of stuff like that is brought up. So that's not what I'm using it for, but it is, like, in the earlier books there are things like that used. However, what I'm actually using this for is later on in the series, Patricia Cornwell, like I say, is LGBTQ plus herself. I don't know what her sexuality is. She's not stated online or anywhere. She was previously married to a man. She is now married to a woman. That means nothing. She's not said. I'm not speculating. But Lucy, who is the main character's niece, is a lesbian. And she is quite a prevalent character throughout. She becomes, if there was points of view, she would become like a POV character, but it's told in third person. And so she just becomes one of the more prevalent characters in the series. So she is an LGBTQ character. I can't talk. She is an LGBTQ character who becomes very important to the story. So that is what I'm meaning to use it for. Although, if you know this story, you know, like, previously there's a lot of, like, there was because it starts in the 90s, and from, like, the main character worked through the AIDS crisis and things like that, so it is mentioned in there. But I do want to mention that, because if you go into this reading the start of the series thinking you're going to get rep, this is what you're going to see, and I just want to pre-warn you from that. But I do mean it to represent Lucy. This is just the book I had on hand because I'm unhauling it, because all my books are up there, and I got the hardback for this because it matches the set, and yeah. But yeah, that's my rambling explanation for that one. Next up is a trifecta, and it is the Ashley Herring Blake Bright Fall series. So for that we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care, Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail, and Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. These are all, as you can see, sapphic romances. So in this we have Delilah Green, who is a lesbian, and Claire, who is a bisexual. She is also a single mother. We then have Astrid Parker, who is straight as a board. Straight as a board. Straight as a board. So straight. And then we have Jordan, who is a lesbian. This one's my favourite. And Jordan reminds me so much of my wife Kay. And I think that might be why it's my favourite. I'm a little bit in love with Jordan, not gonna lie. Like, Jordan reminds me so much of Kay. So much Kay. But Jordan also has a twin brother who is also gay. And throughout the series there are also like other characters who are LGBTQ+, non-binary, trans, etc. just sprinkled within there as well. And especially in Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, because Iris decides to go with Jordan's brother to be part of a Amdram group, and the Amdram group are doing a gender, not even gender bent, like gender scrambled version of a Shakespeare play, and the people that are part of that group are every spectrum you can think of, and it is stunningly beautiful, absolutely stunningly beautiful. But the other character, Stevie, is part of this, and she is also a lesbian, I believe. Iris Kelly is bisexual, I believe. I want to say, I don't remember. I think she's bisexual. But yeah, so we have sapphic relationships in all three books, and a litany of LGBTQ+ characters throughout the entire series. So yeah, it is a stunning set to pick up if you want some good LGBTQ+ rep. Next up is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This I'm just using to represent Alexis Hall's works in general. Boyfriend Material is about Luke and Oliver, who end up fake dating, and Luke and Oliver are obviously a gay couple. Luke also has a lot of friends who are LGBTQ+ in general. Again, we have a mixture of characters in there, so it is quite a spectrum of representation that you get within the book. Alexis Hall does also have another series that I have, which is I can't remember what it's called, Bake Expectations series, which does have LGBTQ+ characters in it. The first one, Rosalind Parker Takes the Cake, I can never say that title, has a bisexual female main character. The second one is about a gay male main character, which is Paris Davenport is about to crumble. But I'm just using this to represent all of them, because I have less to say than I did about the Ashley Herring Blake ones. And next is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is also told in verse. That was a bad page too. It's almost mixed media and in verse. And this is about our main character, Michael, who wants to be a drag queen. And yeah, so again, this has a litany of characters throughout who are across the LGBTQ+ spectrum. But this is also about a teenage going into university sort of aged boy who wants to explore his sexuality and his gender identity and wants to be a drag queen. So yeah, if you liked Everybody's Talking About Jamie, you will love this. You will absolutely love this if you like Everybody's Talking About Jamie. I thoroughly encourage you to pick up Dean Atta. There's also Only on the Weekends by Dean Atta, which is about a gay teen. It's also told in verse, so also a very quick read. A gay teen, and there's also trans representation in there as well. So yeah, excellent books to pick up, and again, they're in verse, so very, very quick to read. Next is one I will be surprised if you haven't heard of, and that is Gideon the Ninth. And this is by Tamsin Muir. It is a sci-fi fantasy story which is very largely known online as lesbian necromancers in space. Need I say more? Need I say more? This is a very confusing, twisty book, so please go into that knowing this. But yes, Gideon is very, very gay. Very gay. Like, Gideon is what I would refer to as chronically gay. Thank you, Hamish, for kicking the lights again. Next up is The Casket Girls by Alice Arden. This is one of my favourite series of all time. And yeah, this book is just, again, it's just so casually stuffed with LGBTQ plus characters. There's characters in here, main POV characters, as you get further through, who are introduced, who are bisexual, male and female POV characters who are bisexual. You have a character who has 2 dads and many family members who live within the family household who do not care, of all ages. It is just part of the family and they don't care because it's just so normal. This is set in New Orleans, so I think New Orleans is one of those places where people just don't care. Like, as long as you're happy, as long as you are who you are, they don't care. Like, there is side characters as well who are LGBTQ plus, and again, nobody cares. One of these characters who is like the most flamboyantly over the top, like just the most New Orleans flamboyantly gay man, and here is one of the most loved people in the quarter, and it's just how it is. Like, I would love to go to New Orleans so badly, and this just makes me want to go so much more. And yeah, so excellent for your rep. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not front and centre, but it's just there and it's just accepted so easily, and that's beautiful because that's just how it should be. Next up is Goldilocks by Laura Lamb. This is a book about a crew of women who hijack a spaceship to save humanity, and how things go a little bit wrong for reasons. This is an excellent sci-fi book, and this book will make you so mad. It's like sci-fi pre-Handmaid's Tale. It's like before the Handmaid's Tale happens, but sci-fi. Like, women are being stripped of their rights, stripped of their abilities to be working in certain positions, STEM and things like that, and these women go, okay, we're going to hijack your rocket and we're going to do it ourselves. And I love it. But one of the couples, they're all women on this, so 2 of the astronauts on this spaceship are a lesbian couple, and so LGBTQ plus rep on the spaceship, but also excellent novel. I do think more people should be reading it. Next up is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becca Chambers. If you can find me something queerer than Becca Chambers books, I will be shocked, because this is just unbelievably queer coded. Like, everything in here is so unbelievably queer coded. You fight me. Like, Becky Chambers is just like, yeah, sure, everything's queer. Everything's queer. I don't care. Everything's queer. Everything's queer. You have aliens here who switch genders throughout their lifetime. You have aliens who switch gender for mating. You have people and creatures and aliens who don't care who they mate with or who they have relationships with. Male, female, non-gendered, multiple gendered. It just, everything. Everything is in this book. Everything is in this world. You have everything in this series. Like, this is a 4-book series, companion series, and everything is represented. Is like, well, not everything, but like, just like so much is represented. It's actually mind-blowing, and it's just so casually just like there. It's just like, here you go, off you pop, and I love it so much. Next up is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This is a sort of body horror novel about these girls who are trapped on this island at this school. So the school is on the island. That's always been the case, but something has been released into this world, and I can't remember what it's called. There's a name for it, and these things are happening to these girls. So like, there are these growths that are happening. Like, somebody's eye pops out and like plant or something grows out. Like, there's these weird body horror things that are happening to these girls, and it's gross and it's disgusting, and some of them are dying and some of them are not, and they've basically been quarantined on this island, and it is like body horror mixed with them trying to survive, mixed with this like school setting where it's like this private girls' school where they're all really bitchy. And then you've got your main character and her girlfriend and their friend all trying to figure out how to survive on this side. Like, but then when the thing gets too far, they turn into these creatures. It's a whole horror like thing. It's not like horror. I don't know if it's horror, but it's definitely horror. I don't read horror, so I don't quite understand the horror. But it's main characters are a sapphic couple. Sapphic couple. If you want to hear more about this, Books and Lala is the one you want to ask about, the one I want to go to, because she's the reason I picked up this book, and I can't decide if I regret it or not, because yeah, I don't read horror, and also it was frigging gross. Next, I was one that Becca also spoke about, and that is Cinderella is Dead by Kailyn Barron. This is a sapphic Cinderella retelling or continuation. So it's like Cinderella's dead and this is after. It's... I don't even know how to explain this book. I really enjoyed this book. It was so underrated, I think. I think this book was definitely underrated. But yeah, main character is lesbian, or at least she is seems to be only interested in girls. Like, she's a girl interested in girls. So she's, from what I remember, I think she's actually repulsed by boys. Or it might just be the boys that are in the book, like the ones that she knows she's repulsed by. So take of that what you will. But yeah, it's definitely a sapphic story. Next up is Who's Afraid by Maria Lewis. Now, I cannot specifically remember which characters are LGBTQ+ in this, but I do know there are LGBTQ+ characters in this. I'm pretty sure at one point it was like the Charlene Harris books where one of the characters is so old, she's like, what do you mean you've had a relationship with a man? And he's like, I'm over 1,000 years old. You think that just having a relationship with a man is the worst thing I could do? And she's like, fair. Like, this book, this series, I love the series. This one here, I love it so much. But yeah, this again has LGBTQ+ characters in it. I want to say I think her best friend is a gay man. I need to reread this series to refresh myself. But yeah, there are LGBTQ characters in this as well. I can't remember specifically, it's kind of like a companion series. So I can't remember specifically what books may or may not have characters in it, because it's not always the same characters you're following. But there are, within the series, LGBTQ characters there. Next up is another kind of trifecta, and that is Becky Albertalli. So we've got Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, Leah on the Offbeat, and Imogen, obviously. All by Becky Albertalli, obviously. And these are all LGBTQ+ books. Simon is about a gay teen who is outed at school, which is something you should never do. Never do. Don't even think about it. Leah and the Offbeat is a book about one of the characters from Simon who is bisexual, and Imogen obviously is about a ally character who is a great ally and absolutely not bisexual. Totally not bisexual. She's absolutely the best ally ever. Absolutely not bisexual. Totally not bisexual. Totally a great ally. Yeah, you have to question it that much. You need to really. It's like what I said. It's like what I said about red, white, royal blue. It's like, babes, nobody questions it that much. Yeah. So again, quintessential Becky Albertalli, all LGBTQ+ books. So next I'm going to show you a couple of non-fiction books just to break it up a little bit, and then I'm going to go on to my hardbacks that I've pulled for you. So the first two I'm just going to show you together because it's the same books on the same subject. So that is The Tea in LGBT by Jamie Rains and What's the Tea by Juno Dawson. Jamie Rains is a YouTuber, I will leave him linked below, and Juno Dawson is an author that you will see later on in this video. Both of these are non-fiction books about being trans and a little bit about the author's journey being trans as well. Juno Dawson, like I say, she is an author that you will see later on, and Jamie, he is a YouTuber. Both of them do excellent work as well within the community and are advocates for trans youth and trans folks the world over, and I highly recommend that you check out these books. These are the only sort of, I was going to say non-fiction fact books I have, which is a dumb way to say it. I have specifically books about being trans because it is something I've never experienced, and so I got these and I recommend these to people because it's something I've never experienced before and it's something I will never experience, and so I want to educate myself on something that I may never have to experience myself, but I want to know about because there will be people I may meet in my life that do go through it and experience it, and I want to be able to be the best sort of friend, ally, person that I can be. So what better to do than to listen to voices who have experienced it and know much more than I do, especially Jamie, who has a PhD in the subject. And then this one is technically not about LGBTQ plus issues. Not that any of my fiction books really are, but this is Gonna Hurt by Adam Kay. I also have Undoctored by Adam Kay and Twas the Next Shift Before Christmas by Adam Kay. And Adam Kay is a doctor who worked in the NHS here in the UK, and he's now kind of a comedian activist, and he is also an author of these, and he also does kids books as well. Adam himself is a gay man, and so all of these non-fiction books that he writes about his time in the NHS are written from the lens of a gay man as well. He was in this book, when he first started his residencies and things like that, he was with a female partner. I don't know if they were engaged or if it was just, they were just together. I can't remember. And then realised later on that he was actually gay and is now married to a wonderful man and is hopefully, I hope, very, very happy. But yeah, so these sort of memoirs also track his life through realising that he was gay and sexual assault and rape that he went through, which obviously triggers warnings if you're going to read these. I think it's in the, I don't remember if it's in this one or if it's in the second one. I do know it's definitely in Undoctored, but I don't know if he mentions anything about it in this one, but I do know he definitely mentions it in Undoctored. But he was an OBGYN, so if you're going into it, know that there are graphic details of childbirth and things like C-sections and forceps deliveries, blood, gore, etc. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to read any of these, just so you know. So we are on to my hardbacks. Don't worry, we are almost through the books. First is Magnus Chase and the Sword of Summer. I'm going to try and stop the white balance from getting knocked off by this very shiny book. Magnus Chase is the first in the Magnus Chase trilogy by Rick Riordan. Magnus Chase himself is bisexual or pansexual, I can't remember which. But yeah, as a main character, he is bisexual. There are also characters in here who are gender non-conforming or other sexualities as well. It is based on Norse mythology. If you know anything about Norse mythology, it is that they did not give a flying fig about gender and sexuality, especially not things like Loki, who could change their gender whenever they felt like it. So yeah, Rick has compiled that into his Norse mythology series. So if you want some LGBTQ plus hijinks, Magnus Chase is the way to go. There's also a deaf main character, or a deaf, not main character, but deaf character, and a mute character, so I really like that as well. And the deaf character speaks elf, which is elf sign language, which is hilarious. And then of course it wouldn't be talking about LGBTQ plus characters, talking about Rick Riordan without bringing up Apollo. Come on. Greek myth, Apollo, he is peak bisexual. I'm sorry. So yes, throughout I chose this one as the representation for the Percy Jackson series in general. So the Percy Jackson world, they're all connected. Kane Chronicles, Magnus Chase, Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, Trials of Apollo. They're all connected. They all happen in the same world concurrently. Like, they all happen in the same world. But I've picked this one for a reason. So there are LGBTQ plus characters within the world, but some of them aren't revealed, or some of them don't come into the story until later on. So I know that they are definitely within the story at this point. And I do know that a lot of the Apollo kids, if you pay attention during Percy Jackson, some of them say my mum, some of them say my dad when they're talking about their human parents. Apollo is famously, I would call him omnisexual. Like, he will sleep with anything. I mean, Zeus, but you know, yeah. So Apollo is famously just bi-king. He is bi-icon, bi-con. But there are also throughout the Percy Jackson, I just call the Percy Jackson series anything from Percy Jackson to the new Percy Jackson books. So Percy Jackson, when I say Percy Jackson series, I mean the original Percy Jackson and the Olympian 5-book series, Heroes of Olympus, Trials of Apollo, Sun and the Star, and the new Percy Jackson books that are coming out. That is what I mean when I say Percy Jackson series. Those books. So within that, there are a multitude of LGBTQ plus characters. So yeah, but specifically once you get to Heroes of Olympus, that is when they really kick up. Like, you'll notice there's more LGBTQ plus characters. Trials of Apollo, it really kicks in. Sun and the Star specifically is about LGBTQ plus characters. You know, and Magnus Chase, obviously, like I just said. So that's why I've chosen this one to represent those characters. That and just watching poor Lester fall from the sky. Next up here, she is. It is Juno Dawson and Her Majesty's Royal Coven. This again has a sapphic couple in it, other people who are LGBTQ+. This book just kind of has, again, multiple different things going on at once. So there are different characters covered by different sexualities, genders, etc. within this. Again, just as part of the world in general, not as like this is an LGBT story. This is just like, these are the people. This is how it's going to be. Like it or lump it. I just love that about Juno. I love Juno. She's honestly one of the best like authors I've met when I've done an author meet. Just love her so much. Next up, because of course you know I couldn't do this video without doing this book. It's Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Have my Heartstopper top on. Had to do my Heartstopper boys. Heartstopper is Alice Oseman's graphic novel series, and this is about our two boys, Charlie and Nick. And Charlie and Nick fall in love. Boy meets boy. Boys become friends. Boys fall in love. That is the gist of the story, but it also opens up to characters who are gay, bisexual, lesbian, trans, aro, ace. Just, the world is so wide within Alice Oseman's books. So yeah, just I love everything, and I just want to show off this beautiful cover of these books. Next up is another excellent author, and that is S.T. Gibson. So we have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson and An Education in Malice. A Dowry of Blood has, again, just LGBTQ plus characters. We have a kind of polyam. It's so it's a Bride of Dracula retelling. So there is polyam within it, but there's also like harem style. Like, Dracula's brides are obviously a harem, but at the same time they have relationships within that. So like the brides have a relationship with each other. I don't want to spoil anything. Just believe me when I say, like, it is this book is unbelievably toxic, and like I worry about S.D. Gibson, but there are multiple different types of relationship and LGBT coverings in this this novel. And then in Education in Malice we have a sapphic relationship. as well in this, and a little sneaky appearance from one of the characters in this. So they are connected, and I can't wait to see if there's another book that draws it all together, because that would be really nice, or if it was just like a sneaky little appearance. Yeah, so Education Malice is very much sapphic based. It is a Carmilla retelling, so both set in the same world. This is about Carmilla, this is about Dracula, but Carmilla told in a way that you haven't seen before. Dark Academia, vampires, it was so good. Like, the more I'm left stewing about it, the more I enjoyed it. Both very toxic, like, so toxic. It's so good. Next up is another set of my favourite boys, and that is Cassandra Clare's World. This, obviously, I got to represent Alec and Magnus, who I just love with all of my heart. Just all of my heart. There are a lot of different LGBTQ characters, or not a lot of, but like, there's representation of LGBTQ characters within and throughout the book. So we've got Alec, obviously, and Magnus. We have if you've not read these books, you're potentially going to get spoiled, so just be warned. We have a lesbian couple, we have a polyam couple, throuple, but again, proper polyam, none of this love triangle bullshit. We have a trans character, I don't know if I've said that already. We have a lesbian couple, we have multiple different LGBTQ characters within this. I also believe we have, I think we have an ROAce character in this somewhere as well. But yeah, so Cassie Clare does have like a little sprinkling of LGBTQ characters within all of her series. And so whatever one you want to pick up, there's probably a character within that for you to get some rep in there. But Magnus and Alec will also always have my heart. Next up is Kate Moss's The Ghost Ship. I don't know if anybody was expecting me to show this book, because I don't know if anybody's ever really, like, Kate Moss is one of the most underrated authors that I don't see people reading, and I really need you all to start reading it. Look at this book for a start. This is the indie version, like the indie bookstore version. So this is a retelling of specific female pirates. I can't remember which ones off the top of my head, but Kate Moss is so interested in retelling female stories, and so all of her books are female-centred retellings, or female-centred historical fiction stories. Like, they're all just... if you read historical fiction, read Kate Moss. If you like historical fiction, read Kate Moss. If you like women in fiction, read Kate Moss. Kate Moss is one of the founders of the Women's Prize for Fiction. She is my queen. I love her so much. She was the kindest person when I met her. She is incredibly articulate, incredibly smart, incredibly kind, incredibly compassionate. She is my queen. And I love her so much. So our main character in this, she ends up buying the ship, and she decides that she's going to like captain the ship herself. Or she decides she's going to like be on the ship herself, and she ends up sort of in a relationship with this other crew member, which is like, you know, really not supposed to do, because she's like a high society lady and this person's like a deckhand type crew member. It turns out this crew member is not everything that they appear to be. I'm not sure. We don't get like a definition on this. Like, they didn't have the language back then. This is set in like the 1600s ish, 1700s, that sort of time. They didn't have the language to like define, so there's no definition put on this crew member. But I also don't know whether or not I would call this crew member trans or not. They're definitely somewhere on the gender spectrum that is not necessarily like cisgender. Because when they were younger, so they had a brother when they were younger. They were born female. They had a brother, and their brother died, and so their mother decided to dress them up as their brother and make them pretend to be their brother, so they would be the heir to their uncle's fortune, basically. and made them lie and say that they were the brother. And they spent so long pretending to be their brother that they felt more comfortable being a boy, and so have grown up to be a man. They grew up being male in every way. Like, it's a lot more complex, but this is like the nutshell version, like a really quick and dirty nutshell version. They grew up male. They grew up being referred to as a boy. Like, that day, that girl died and she became her brother. And so throughout her life, she was referred to as her brother's name, her brother's title. He became himself and became so much more comfortable as a man than as being referred to as a woman. And even when he was grown up and had the chance and was given the chance by our main character to be a woman again, was like, no, I actually prefer being a man. Like, he felt more comfortable as himself. When she asked him, how would you prefer I refer to you? Asked for his pronouns, asked how he would prefer to be referred to. He was like, no, I actually prefer being a man. I prefer being known as a man. And not just because I think it would be easier to be a man, like, because this other main character had enough money for them to get by as women in the world, but because in his heart he felt it was right. Like, he felt like a man. That's how he felt. So I don't know. There's no, like, even Kate herself said she was putting no definition on this character. It was just, she was just leaving them as they were. But that's, so yeah, there's definitely some rep in there, but there was no nailing down of what this character was, which is great because some people don't ever feel like they can nail down their gender, and it's beautiful to allow a character to envelop that, just to be like, well, I'm not 100% sure, but this is how I feel more comfortable, and for other characters to go, do you know what? That's fine, that's fair. I'm not going to pressure you into doing something you're not comfortable with. I love this book so much. So yeah, we have, it comes under the trans umbrella probably. So yeah, we have rep in that, but like I say, it's based off of female. So I think Lucy. I want to say Lucy. Lucy is the name that keeps popping into my head. Louise is the main character. Louise is based off of a known female pirate in the Mediterranean back in like the 1700s, I want to say. So yeah, and they have a relationship together, and Louise doesn't care that this person looks like they're supposed to be a man on the outside, but does not have the parts. They still sleep together, and they're still happy together, and they still have this relationship, and they still get married. It's just like, I love this book so much. Sorry, I can't not go on about this book. Next up is Legends and Lattes. This follows Viv as she decides she wants to no longer be a mercenary and she wants to open a coffee shop. And so that's exactly what she does. And yeah, this is a cosy fantasy with a sapphic main character and a lovely, cute little sapphic romance. If you don't like fantasy, if you're not a big fantasy buff, this is a great book for you. I am not a big fantasy person. You will see all the fantasy around me is mainly like urban fantasy, whereas this is like high fantasy, but cozy high fantasy, and I ate this up. I love this book so much. I really enjoyed this book. This was exactly what I needed when I read it, and it's just so much more beautiful that it's sapphic. Next up is A Dark Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and of course we all know the prince in this is gay as the day is long. He is very much into guys and very much openly vocal about it, and again, nobody cares. Nobody cares. He has been gay for as long as we are aware of him, as long as his parents have been aware of him, and we get to meet his boyfriend later on, so that's fine. Yeah, V.E. Schwab very much has LGBTQ plus characters in their books, and I'm pretty sure there's also a character in here who is somewhere on the non-binary spectrum. I don't remember if that's confirmed in the text or just confirmed by Schwab themselves, but I get big like non-binary vibes from one of the characters. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. But yeah, I kind of feel like I want to reread this series now, but I have so much to read. And the last 2 books, yes, we are finally here. We are finally on the last books. You will be thankful to hear, or not. Maybe you like getting all these recs with LGBTQ characters. The last 2 are 2 of my Bergman books, and that is If Only You and Everything for You. Of course, you can see we have Ollie and Gavin here, who are a male couple. I keep wanting to say I think Ollie might be bisexual, but I can't remember exactly. But even if they're not, it's still a male couple. This deals quite heavily in some places with homophobia, and it is a discussion point in this book. So just keep an eye on that if you have any sort of triggers around that. If it's not something you want to have a discussion about, this book will have a discussion about that topic. But yeah, Gavin and even Gavin's friends, like he has like friends who are in their 70s who are LGBT characters, and it's just so beautiful, and it's just oh, I love them so much. But I do want to say I think Ollie is bisexual, but I can't remember. I need to reread these books. And also, here we have Ziggy and Seb. As I said in a video when I was wrapping up, I think it was when I was wrapping up reading this book, Ziggy is bisexual and Seb is pansexual. So even though they are in a heteronormative relationship, Ziggy is still a bisexual woman and Seb is still a pansexual man. And yes, there is a difference between pansexual and bisexual. And yes, I love the fact that Chloe Leese has put 2 of these characters together and not made a fuss about it. Like neither of them go, well, that's just the same thing. They just go, like she says, I'm a bisexual woman. He goes, excellent, I'm pansexual. And she's like, cool. And they just move on with their lives. They just move on. Like my little pan flag behind me. I love it. I love that there's finally a pansexual character. Like, and there's probably more pansexual characters in here that I've missed, but like the fact that he just, a pansexual man just outright comes and says it. Like, just, but yeah, my last 2 books. Got some lovely pansexual rip, and I would love to see like artwork of the Bergmans at Pride. That would just be beautiful. Can somebody make that happen for me, please? Just please. So yeah, there you go. There are 40 plus 46 plus, I think there's 46 books I've just shown you, plus extended into series that I've discussed. So a lot of books there that you can be reading if you want books with some kind of LGBTQ plus characters in them. I can guarantee you, 100% guarantee you, there are books on my shelves that I have missed or overlooked that have LGBTQ plus characters. Guaranteed. Because these are the books that I pulled off without having to think about it. If I actually looked into it, I could probably find more books on my shelf. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. I'm loving the fact that so many more characters who are LGBT are getting into books. These are only books that I've read. This is including my TBR cart, which is looking like it's gonna crumble under the weight of my TBR, but that's not the point. So yeah, let me know down below what your favourite LGBTQ plus book is. If you've read any of the books that I've shown you, what was your favourite? Recommend me LGBTQ plus books. Please recommend me as many LGBTQ plus books as you want. I would love to read more. I'm always on the lookout for more LGBTQ plus books, because I feel like I don't read as many of them as I should be reading them, and especially not ones with more intersectionality, because if there's one thing I can say about the ones I've just shown you, I can guarantee that 99% of them are probably very white. Very, very white. So if you've got any recommendations for LGBTQ plus books with POC main characters from POC authors, get them down there, because I would love to get reading more of them. Again, some of them might be on my on my TBR shelf because I've not got around to my TBR yet, obviously. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic Pride, and thank you again to Becca for making that video, and sorry for just pilfering off your idea, but that's what friends are for, I suppose. If you just want to let me know you're here and you don't want to leave a big long comment or any comment at all, that you have to type, just leave me some kind of pride emoji. So leave me the pride flag or the trans flag or your pride colours in hearts. So like for me, I would leave like a pink heart, a yellow heart and a blue heart for the pansexual flag. Like leave me your pride colours. It's amazing. I'm so excited to see my comment section just light up like a pride parade. Yeah, thanks so much for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye.